I'm going to share my screen here. All right, welcome to our PDF webinar. So last time we ended with the promise that we were going to get all in PDFs this time.
Yep.
I'm excited about. My name is Heather Horner. I'm SVP of Product here, joined by Travis Tidwell, our CTO. So with Form.IO, there's a lot of very cool things that we handle for business process applications that our customers are building. And one section of that capabilities is all about PDFs. So I'm going to jump in and just talk a little bit about what that means before I hand it over to Travis to dive into the technical aspects behind all these concepts. And we'll be giving some demos as well. So with our PDF server offering, there's two areas of sort of separation that we do things with PDFs. First is you're starting with a dynamic web form. You build a web form, you've embedded it within your application. A user fills out this form and you have data and you want to print it out to a PDF. The PDF server handles that. You can throw kind of any JSON at it. Really, Travis will dive into a little bit of that and the flexibilities around that. And you can print out a PDF and that submission goes straight to a PDF with every single field that was on the form or not, or what have you. This can be attached to actions like an email action. So if you want, when a user fills out a form and presses submit, then a PDF of that submission gets sent along via email. That can be an automatic thing that happens, etc. We then also have our PDF Server Plus offering. This is a newer offering that has a couple of really cool capabilities. One of the newest capabilities that we've released, which is out on portal.form.io now, which you can check out for free by logging in there and opening a project for trial, is this PDF template designer. So like I was saying before, you can have this dynamic web form and print out any submission to PDF. We had a lot of responses from customers saying it'd be great to have some more flexibility in this area, to be able to design what that PDF output looks like. A real world use case is like a receipt or a thank you letter or something like that, where it isn't necessarily every little bit of information that gets filled into the form, but rather this templated, designed, great looking PDF that also may get passed on via email or printed out in some system as a mailer or what have you. So you have an area in the portal application where you can design these templates for your PDF output to have selective fields and then other content that maybe isn't on the form, which I will show an example of later. And that is in this PDF Server Plus option, that customizability and template designer. The other thing that the PDF Server Plus handles is if there is a requirement. We see this a lot in industries that have regulated forms, government, insurance, healthcare occasionally, but especially government and insurance, we see a lot of PDF first forms. The requirement is that the original PDF document is something that must be maintained as that output of the form with the data on top of it. So this is still a dynamic web form. So what happens is you upload that PDF and that's the background to your dynamic web form. You still have all the beauties of Form.IO, of conditional logic and everything else that you want with fields, but it is constrained to that design of an output of that original PDF document should you need to retain that. You can then present the user either with a dynamic web form or that PDF first view, but the print out to PDF is on that original form template. So that's a short overview of the offerings from the product side. I'd love to hand it over to Travis now, if you can go into all things PDF, and then we'll cover that template designer, and I may interject with my unsolicited opinions along the way.
I would expect nothing less.
Perfect.
All right. So thank you, Heather. I'm going to share my screen because what I'd like to do is just give everyone a demonstration of what our PDF capabilities are, what they consist of. So let me go ahead and click share. I'm going to share this computer here. I'm going to share. Let me know if you can see my screen, Heather.
Yep, good to go.
All right, sounds good. So what I'd like to do is I'd like to dive in. So last time, whenever we were on on one of these webinars, we really kind of covered the renderer, we covered the form technology, We covered how the renderer works, how you embed forms within your application. Everything is fantastic. But that is really just the tip of the iceberg of all the capabilities that Form.IO has to offer in terms of offering very robust form capabilities to enterprises all over the world. One of the things that most enterprises have to deal with, especially whenever you're talking about forms, is working with PDFs. And why PDFs? Well, PDFs for 20 plus years has been this standard of interchange between organizations. They use the PDF as this capability so you can easily email some people and they can see what the document is. It also works on every machine, every computer. And in a lot of cases, many governments and many organizations use PDF as their file format of choice when storing information or storing as a piece of document of record. Some of them require you to actually print it out. I know that, we say that here we are in 2024, we're in a paperless society. Not really. Many organizations are not paperless. They still need that hard copy that they have to actually file for record keeping. So what I'd like to do is I'd like to cover all of these capabilities that Form.IO has in reference to this wonderful technology called PDF. So I'm going to dive into this project here. We covered all of what projects are in the last webinar. So if you're interested in a more high-level overview of how to navigate your way through Form.IO, I recommend going to some of those other webinar videos. So I'm going to dive right in. Previously, whenever we showed Form.IO, we showed how the form builder works, how you can create forms, and then also how you can embed those forms within an application. So I'm going to start off by just showing this particular form here. This is an employment application form. Obviously, we used our drag and drop form builder to create this. And then ultimately, this form is embedded within an application. So I've got an application here that I can just very quickly show this to you. So this would be like an application built in Angular. And this particular form, this is the employment application form. You can see it is embedded within this application here. So now the use case that a lot of people run into, especially whenever you're dealing with PDFs, is the ability to output the submission. So someone comes along, they fill out their information. After they're done filling it out, they click the submit button. A very big use case is to be able to have that submission as an official PDF document output. That is actually one of the first PDF capabilities that Form.IO has to offer, which is part of the PDF basic plan, which is to generate PDFs of submissions that you have within your application. So in this particular case, let's say I fill this form out. I've got some existing submissions here. So here's this Joe Smith has filled out this PDF or filled out this form. As of right now, this is a rendered web form, and the JSON of that form, as well as the submission, is all in JSON format. What our PDF capability allows you to do is to take this view and produce a PDF output of that view. Now, in this application, I've got a link here that is this PDF URL. You can see down at the very bottom of my browser, we have an API URL to effectively download this submission as a PDF. And I'm going to talk a little bit about the APIs involved here because everything at Form.IO is API based. So you will be able to generate any of these PDFs that you're about to see outside of a web application if you want to just generate those PDFs. But the point is that this link right here, whenever I click this, this is going to send an API call to our servers, the deployed servers in your own environment, and that is going to dynamically generate a PDF on the fly. And that's effectively what we see right here. Now, what I'd like to do is break down what just happened. It happened very fast. I clicked a link, I see a PDF. When people see this, their first instinct is to believe that we have in a file directory somewhere or an S3 bucket that we have these PDFs just stored as files somewhere. Form.io, that is absolutely not the case. Every PDF that is produced via Form.io platform is dynamically generated on the fly. So when you request a PDF, that PDF is going through the server. The server is effectively constructing what that PDF should be. It generates the PDF on the fly and sends the response to the user to download that PDF on their desktop. And it's in this moment that you can either A, download it to your machine. I can click this download link, or I could send this to the printer. So this is now this is actually a file that can be downloaded as a PDF document. It is in PDF format. In fact, if I just click download here, you'll see that I can actually just click download, and now I've got this download PDF, which is the file, the PDF in PDF format on my local machine. But the point is that this is dynamically generated on the fly.
I think one of the things that's really cool about that concept, Travis, which has come up a lot on at like conferences and other, when we're in specifically like an insurance vertical, where people bring up a pretty big problem that they have with document management and constantly having to store these files that are much bigger than what our data for forms is, which is JSON, right? And so I think that it's like really important to have that concept like solidified, that this PDF on the fly technology really solves a larger problem, which is this like storage conundrum that a lot of people face when they have to store these documents everywhere in one centralized place.
The other thing that also comes about this, and it's also a big problem when your current PDF solution is just really a folder with a bunch of files, is you lose this ability to search, to find documents that you're looking for. So we work a lot with statewide governments and as well as big enterprises, and they are dealing with massive amounts of data. And one of the things that they need to do is very quickly look up records, and from those records get the PDF that represents that piece of data. Well, in a lot of PDF systems, they may have the lookups available, but what they have to do is effectively attach files, actual files, to those documents, and those files have to exist in another location. The other thing that you run into is having to secure that. How do you secure in a very robust way? How do you secure all of this data if all of the data is really stored within like an S3 bucket, within a physical hard drive? Do you need to encrypt that hard drive? With Form.io, all of the data is in JSON format and it's in the database. And because the PDF is generated on the fly, you actually can protect that data in a way more robust way than if those files were just in some folder or some directory or some hard drive, on somebody's desk. Then you have this possible leakage of all of that data through these files. And you don't have that problem with Form.io because all of the data exists within the APIs. It exists in the database. And only at the moment when you need the PDF is that PDF produced as a file, which is a very powerful concept.
Yeah, and I think the other, if I could ask you a question on that, because it's on the fly, we're talking about, security. What makes Form.io secure with it being like, what about the API, or what's the security around that? Can you describe that for me?
Yeah, so anytime that you're dealing or coming up with ideas around securing your data, there's a really important concept which is called it's called the surface area of your attack vectors. And like, what is your surface area? And in order to make a system secure, it's important to make that surface area as small as possible of where data can actually be exposed. And when you are dealing with data, especially very sensitive information, you want the exposure of that data to be through a very narrow window of where people can get access to that data. With Form.io, it is our submission API. Anytime that you want to fetch data, you are fetching data through a single API that we call the submission API. And that single submission API is protected with an RBAC system, which is role-based access controls, where we have roles, people have roles, and based on those roles, they get determined if they should have access to certain data or not. And then that is based on JWT token authentication. So the point though that I'm trying to make though is that the surface area of that data exposure is very minimal. When you're dealing with files and file systems and PDFs and and people's computers, local machines, people could be downloading these files onto the local machines. What you're effectively doing is spreading out the surface area of attack and making that system less secure. Because these PDFs are generated on the fly, they actually have to go through the very same APIs that the submission APIs go through, where you also have the very same authentication and role-based access controls that are implemented in order to be able to download that single submission. So in order to download that PDF, you have to establish your authentication with the token to know if you have access to the data that you're downloading. And all of that's done through a very single API. So in terms of security, it's way more secure to have that approach of PDFs and files and data management.
Thank you for that.
Yeah, so this is by itself could be Form.IO's PDF offering. But Form.IO, what we've done is we've taken this concept of PDFs and have really extended it to all of the possible requirements that you may run into when it comes to PDFs. So in terms of generating a PDF output of a submission, that's great. One of the other major things that we introduced is this ability to upload existing PDF documents. So one thing that we recognized whenever we were getting into the PDF business is that many organizations have a standard of the forms that they need to have filled out. And that standard is in printable format, where they might need to print it out. It needs to look exactly pixel perfect, however that PDF looks, and all of that data needs to be filled out. To give you a good example of this, I've actually got a PDF on my machine here that I can just show you. This is something you can just download from the government. It's this W4 PDF document. So I'm going to drag this over here. So this is a really good example of what I mean. If you were to send in a Word document with all of this data filled out and send that to the government, they'd be like, what is this? We can't accept this. They need it to be in exactly this format, where all of your data is filled out according to this PDF document. So this is what we call a PDF first form. It is a PDF. It was a form that was first to PDF, is why we call it PDF first form. And effectively what this means is that you still need to keep it in this format. And while Form.IO is amazing and you can build some really complex forms, you are not going to be able to use our form builder to generate the HTML or the markup that would produce this type of PDF. So what we've introduced is this ability to take any existing PDF that you can find, upload it, and it converts it into the Form.IO format. Let me just kind of show you how that works. So let me just go ahead and go and upload. I'm going to just click on new form. So here we can actually start a new form as an API web form. But if you notice right next to it, this is the PDF first form that we're going to actually generate here. So if I click on this, it gives me the ability to upload any PDFs that I may have in my inventory. So I'm going to click on upload PDF. I'm going to select this one, which I actually downloaded from the US government's website. I'm going to click open, and it's going to upload that PDF document. It's going to convert it. And not only that, but it's also going to bring in all of these fields that PDF may already have within the PDF document. And this is a major nicety, because I've seen some of these PDF first forms that have hundreds of fields on the PDF, and this automatically picks them out and puts all of the fields in the format that it should be. So I'm going to just call this W4. This is the 2024 version of it. And so let me just go ahead and just go create this form. Now, what actually happened here? I'd like to kind of deep dive into the tech that actually happened here. What Form.IO does is we take a PDF and we convert it into an HTML document. In fact, if you were to just inspect this page here and just hover over some of this document, what you will see is that we have generated HTML output that is a pixel perfect representation of this PDF document. Now, why am I spending the time to show you this? This is a very developer thing to talk about. But the reason why I want to show you this is because the Form.IO capabilities really come alive because we've converted this PDF away from a PDF and into HTML. Because it's now HTML, we can hook our normal renderer, our JavaScript renderer technology, onto this PDF. And the form is effectively an overlay that sits on top of it. What makes that meaningful is that if you were to fill out this form and submit that information, so if I were to, fill out this form, I'm just going to just provide, just a quick bit of information here, like what you just fill all this out, and this is Form.IO, and this, and then I'm going to come down here and hit submit. Ultimately, what just happened is I did not fill out a PDF. I submitted a Form.IO form in JSON format. In fact, if I were to inspect the network here and load this page, and it would load that submission, one thing that you would see is that all of this data is now part of the submission object. And the form is also JSON. And the reason why that is meaningful is now this data is in a searchable format. I could send an API call to fetch that information, to fetch that. And I also can view this form as just a regular Form.IO form. Where this becomes really meaningful is I now have the ability to swap between PDF and web form freely.
One thing I'd
And
love to point out, Travis, too, that I love about the PDF first forms is there's a large mandate too for accessibility compliance to be able to serve the most amount of users, especially in the public sector, right? So it's not, of course, accessibility and compliance is important for a lot of different reasons. But if we think about it as the ability to serve the most possible amount of human beings that need something, this becomes really important in that, previous gen technologies for having a PDF form actually required a specific software to download the form. And that's assuming that someone has at their disposal all of this technology readily available. And I think what's really cool about this is that you can now, and I feel like I want to just interject right here because you're like, yeah, now I can flip over to a web first form. Well, what does that allow you to do? Automatically have this browser, regardless of browser, regardless of technology, it's going to render regardless of device, it'll be responsive, and you can serve more users just because of the technology that's offered here.
yeah, and I actually kind of want to show an example of how, because it's now in this PDF format. So right here is a form that would be for, in fact, let me just flip it over to the PDF first, because I want to show us the PDF first view of it, and then show what you can also do by flipping back and forth between a Form.IO form for the accessibility, which is what you were talking about.
Yep.
And then that would be the accessible version of it that you would have on a mobile device or website, but then also the output that the state needs. So this is actually a form. Now I know this probably doesn't look much like a PDF. In fact, I actually want to use this opportunity to kind of mention that your PDF could be like a Word document that you save as a PDF. It doesn't have to look like that government and have all the pre-filled fields already.
Yeah,
You
we
could
see
have
PDFs from all over the place, from every which way.
Yeah, so in Microsoft Word allows you to save a Word document as PDF. And that works. You can actually use that in Form.IO. In fact, what will end up happening is obviously you're not going to have fields there, but you can drag and drop any of these fields and plop them into place on where you want that specific field, and you can resize it, you can rename it, you can do whatever you want with it, just like you would a normal Form.IO form on top of any PDF. And it does not have to be a fillable PDF. It can be any PDF document, which is really nice. So here I've got this PDF document. I've got all of these, you know, the stuff that's been dragged and dropped, and we even have, like right here, there's a place for signature. I at least want to show the signature component because it's cool. So you can actually plop even a signature, like an e-signature. Let me just resize this and just save it. And so ultimately what you end up getting is you get this PDF form, but what you can also do is because this is a Form.IO form that is overlaid on top of a PDF, you also have the form version of it, which is the accessible portion of this. And so what you can do is you can flip it back to the form, and now you can use the form builder to build out what you want that form to look like. And this right here is what you would then see inside of your application. And of course, this is responsive, so you can actually resize this. You know, let's say that you were filling this out on a mobile device. This is responsive. It's also accessible. And now I've got this ability to input my data with a normal form, and with a normal form. And then when it comes to actually generating the output, so let's say, in fact, I've got just a test example. So this is this form filled out in its current format. But now what I can do is I can generate this PDF, and what it ends up doing is it ends up generating that PDF first form with all of that data overlaid and filled out on top of it. So you've effectively created the best of both worlds. I've got the ability for people to fill out a form in an accessible web form way, and I can generate the output as a PDF document. This is also used a lot in conjunction with our email action, where you would, for example, let's say that you wanted it so that whenever a person fills out the form in the nice web form way, you want them to receive an email with this as the attachment. You can absolutely do that with our email action. So like what you would do is click on actions, you would click on email, and then what you would end up doing is you would click this thing where it says attach submission PDF. Now, when that person receives the email, they can get the official printable version of what they filled out attached to their email, and it does that automatically, which is really great because now they're filling it out as one thing and they're receiving the filled out PDF, the official version of the PDF attached to their email, which is a really cool feature.
I'd love to talk about too, if we could, a little bit about, like, we're talking about forms that are completely filled out, right? And that's great because there's this submission that exists. They're using our submission API. A lot of people are doing that. But there's also a lot of customers that we have that don't use our submission API, but they still want to leverage the PDF APIs to dynamically generate these things on the fly. Could you talk through a little bit about how that can work and what you would be doing with the APIs to make that happen?
Yeah, love that. So everything that I've shown so far, I've shown it in like the nice UI format. Now I briefly covered that everything has an API, but what I'd like to do is show what those APIs look like, but then also show a particular API that is a very powerful API that can be utilized by any enterprise whenever the data does not exist within the Form.IO platform. So if you would like to see what our APIs are, you can actually go to api.docs.form.io. That'll take you to this website, which actually shows all of our API documentation. And then there's a special type of documentation right here, which is the PDF API. Now, most of these APIs can be seen if you were to inspect the network of our portal application. So like, for example, this create PDF submission API, or actually, let's see, get a specific, where it's actually, oh, it's right here. Download a submission as a PDF. Okay, so this one right here, our portal application does this one already. But it does it as a two-part, it's actually a two-part API. The very first thing you have to do is you have to get what's called a temporary download token. The way this works is you have to authorize yourself as having the permissions, as I was talking about, through that single channel of API, as having permissions to download the data that is associated with this PDF document. That is what you get with what's called a temporary download token. So you send a GET request with these headers to effectively fetch a token. Now, if you want to see this in practice, you can actually head over to the portal. Let me show that what that looks like. So I'm going to inspect the network. I'm going to click on data, and I'm just going to pick any one of these. Let me just clear out my filter here. Make sure you're on the network tab, and then just click on any one of these. I'm going to click on this one, and I'm going to click view. So what you just saw here is that API. It's basically your project endpoint token, and then right here you will actually see those headers that were injected into it. So the request headers are right here. You'll see this xallow. This is saying, here's the data that I'm trying to get. Here's my expiration, and here is my authorization token. If you are authorized to get that data, it will respond with this token. And that token can then be used in this next API to download the submission with that auth token. And so if I were to go look at that, you'll see in my URL, this is the URL for that PDF. And so that's an API, a combination of two APIs where you can download any submission in Form.IO as a PDF. Now, to go to your question, Heather, what if they don't have data in Form.IO and they just want to generate a PDF?
Or
via
yeah,
the API?
another like use case that comes to mind is like sort of midstream. I know there's some public sector use cases where the idea is that the forms are public facing, and maybe I'm filling out a form that I need to take to an office, but I don't actually want to submit it. I just want to fill out half the form and then print it out to PDF and take it with me somewhere.
Yep. Yeah. So the API that you would use in that case is this API right here, which is to create a PDF form with a submission. Now, what's beautiful about this API is you can come with your own form JSON and your own submission JSON. In fact, let me just copy this real quick and just show you how this works. So I'm going to go open up Postman. I've actually kind of already started to populate it here. So first of all, you have to hit the PDF proxy, PDF / this is the project ID, which can easily be fetched by just going up here. This is the project ID, same thing. And then / download. It is a post request. To authorize yourself to make this request, you do need to provide this license key. So typically this request is done server to server. I've also seen customers that have built out like a Lambda interface for this, where they can actually, send like their bearer token to the Lambda function, and the Lambda function turns around and does this post request to effectively generate that PDF on the fly. But then ultimately what you're going to end up doing is you're just going to provide the form JSON and the submission JSON. And then as soon as you send that, it will respond with a PDF document. And so that PDF document looks like this now. Let me drag it over. So this is what I just sent it. Now, here's where this gets really cool. I could send any form JSON that I want. So I could, for example, go to my employment application. Let me just go to JSON. I'm just going to copy and paste this full JSON right here. And now what I can do is I could say, okay, what data do I want to fill out here? Okay, so I've got first name, last name. Let's just do first name, last name, phone number, or email address. We'll just do first name, last name, email to make it easier. So I got first name, last name, and let's say that I also want to generate this with joe@example.com. So this is me generating a PDF of that form with this data attached to it. I'm going to send and download that, and what it's going to do is it's going to create this document here. So now you see that this is that employment application form with that data automatically populated. Where this becomes even more interesting, and I feel like this is going to be a really good segue for you to kind of go into the PDF designer, Heather, is you can actually take this one step further. Instead of it just being a form, it can actually be like a template. And let me just kind of show an example of what that would look like.
And I think this is where it's really cool, the concept of like the form definition and then the submission object being two totally separate entities. So you
They're
can
two, yeah.
these filters, which like, and we've talked about this before of like where the form is really just a filter or a lens through which you view data. And this, what you're showing here was really the inspiration for the PDF template designer, if you remember.
That's exactly right. So one thing that we experimented with, and it really highlights the flexibility of Form.IO, is we realized that the PDF takes tokens and it actually is able to interpolate tokens. And you can actually use this combination in conjunction with some layout components. So we have layout components. And so like this right here is the content component. So if I were to edit this, you would see that you get this nice little WYSIWYG editor. And then I can create tokens wherever I want to inject data. And then you can combine that with some special keys within the class names. So like in fact, here, I think it's under layout, maybe, no, we had some keys where you can actually tell it where the page breaks. I don't know where that is. It might be here. Custom, it's under the custom CSS classes. You can create these page breaks. Regardless, you actually have the ability within content regions to create page breaks, but most importantly is you can inject data. Now, what's really cool about this is like you can just build whatever, mailer you want, get the JSON. Let me just copy this, take it over to my PDF generator here. And then let me just provide some data that goes into this thing. So it's looking for first name, last name. We already got that. Let me just add an address 1 and city, state, zip to this thing. So if I were to say address 1, city, we'll just do Dallas, state, obviously Texas, zip. Okay, so now I've got this post request, and what is this going to do? Well, this is going to basically automatically generate via REST API a PDF of this template, fill it out with that data. So let me just go ahead and send and download this. And then if I were to flip over to that, this is now what that looks like. So you've got this piece of document here that has that name filled out, and here's all the stuff. And of course, this is data that I just didn't provide, but if I did provide that data, it would actually show up in the document. You can just, this is all based on tokens, that it's basically creating this dynamic PDF output that was built by a form builder, so that you could generate this as a template with a non-developer to effectively create this output. Now, we took this one step further, which is where I'd like to hand this over to you, Heather.
Yep.
For you to show off this new feature where we really kind of took this concept and we made it like an official product of Form.IO. So I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing my screen. I'm going to let you take it.
Yeah. Let me share my screen here. Okay, so you can see my screen now.
I can.
Perfect. So I did this example with this health and life insurance form. So if we were to go out and go through and fill out this entire form, we have, this nice form in a wizard form, different sections of it. And then, so I'm going to fast track this a little bit. We have the data. So if I'm want to print this out, I have a couple options. And this is where my slides that I referenced before, you can print out, every field on there, or we can make a custom template for something else. I've made this into sort of a welcome letter that would get mailed out to the customer. And just like Travis, what you were saying about the tokens, we can still do that with the content component. we've got some really cool little features here on this PDF tab. What I love about it is one is the available fields. So you've got these names here where if you need to know, like you were kind of jumping back and forth and saying, okay, what data do I want to fill out? Well, I can actually look through this and it's paginated to say, let me copy that. And what I did here is like, first name, you want to make sure it's camel cased and not misspelled. So you're getting the right token there. But in here, I said, okay, dear data.first name, and made sure that that was, copied and pasted the right way. Right. And so you've got some hints, helpful hints here of what what the components keys are to help you with that. You also have the ability with the existing fields to just drag and drop something over. So if you wanted someone's signature on there or whatever they may have filled out of, their full name, we'll just put it on there for the sake of it, just to show this. But what you can end up doing is having whatever type of information you do or don't want on the template pre-configured there. So then when you go to view a submission, in the original form, of course, it's a demo, so why would anything work for me? Here we go. You view a submission and everything works perfectly. And you can see that all of the information is here, but it's still in this wizard format. If I were to print that out to PDF, everything would paginate and open up and you'd see everything all in a row. But I've got this template set up on the PDF tab. So when I go to print this to PDF, instead I get this very nice format. And of course we added full name on the bottom, but you would have this nice thing where you have a logo, you've got the company name, what it is that you're doing. And my example here was this letter, this thank you letter, whatever. And so this is interpolating this first name here. And then, also some other options for, what you want to include there rather than getting every single field on the form. And so we're super excited about this. This is definitely the first version of it. And we're very excited to be continuing the development on this feature set as well, where you can use, again, all types of layout components. So you can construct things from scratch as you wish. And then also the ability to drag and drop certain fields should that be the use case where you maybe don't want 300 of the fields, but you want it to look like the original form does. So you can just drag and drop them as you wish. I will say that if there's any requests for features on this, I'm all ears all the time. And we love hearing new use cases about what you're up to and what you're doing. And that's the PDF template designer in a nutshell here, which we're very excited about. So that's what I've got for the PDF webinar. Travis, did you have anything else you wanted to cover? Otherwise, I think I'll see.
Yeah, I mean, of course I could talk all day about this, but I would say for the sake of time, I've definitely covered plenty. There's a lot of really cool developer things about our PDF system. And instead of actually going through and talking about it, what I would like to do is just kind of show people where they can go to read more about some of these really cool features that we have. So we've documented a lot of these features. If you were to go to help.form.io, and in help.form.io, just type PDF, you're going to find all kinds of information about this. There's a lot of things that we didn't even cover. For example, having custom viewers to generate your own custom markup within these PDFs.
And I think so with the custom viewers too, a lot of people, if they maintain their own CSS templates that they want to apply and they want those templates to traverse over to the PDF, they maintain that custom viewer. We have a ton of customers that do that's possible for.
Right. Yeah. So there's just all kinds of really wonderful features specifically catered to developers to give them the ability to generate whatever PDFs that they need to generate. And, yes, Form.IO is forms generating PDFs, but I really want to make sure that I highlight that what we've created is really an unopinionated PDF generation API. And you really can create whatever PDFs you want using our APIs. It doesn't have to be forms. It could just be a PDF like what you just showed. It could be a mailer. It could be a piece of document. And you can actually, we've even had some people use this custom viewer to print certificates. Remember that? They had like the little borders around the little certificate and they would like automatically fill out their name and for those certificates. our PDF system is built in such a way that you really can use it for all kinds of PDF requirements. And so I
Yep.
just welcome anyone to go to our documentation, read all about it. Here's that page breaks that I couldn't find earlier, but it's all here on the documentation
Yep.
on what you can do with the PDF system.
One thing I will add to that is that, the power of this PDF solution really is being in the context of the Form.IO offering. It's like, yes, you're doing forms and really okay, what are our customers doing? It's not forms. They're building an application and they're using Form.IO to get them there much quicker because forms are such a massive portion of data collection applications, right? And so then all of a sudden you think, okay, I need forms. Okay, well, what goes with that? Authentication and all these other things, and then PDFs. And I've got all these different workflows that are within my app that implicate some PDF functionality. And so it's really the beauty of the PDF Server and PDF Server Plus offerings being in suite and in conjunction with the Form.IO platform. And then just to cover it, so I've had it come out of my mouth that the PDF server is sold, as a part of the configuration with alongside the other containers. It requires the API server and project and self-hosted deployment. And we love hearing new use cases all the time of how people are using the PDF server and the APIs and the offerings. And so we're all ears to hear more. So thank you, Travis, for going through all of that. And thank you everyone for joining.
Well, thank you, Heather, for doing it as well. Hopefully it was very informative for anyone who's curious about the Form.IO PDF technology.
Yep. All right. Thanks, everyone. See you next time.
All right. Bye-bye.